we've got our little block, and I've put some bluing on the back, and basically what I've done is, this is going to be the back. There's two small, very shallow holes that have got to be drilled for tapping for 440 UNC. I've marked one of them. I used a transfer punch. I think it was probably this one. A tiny transfer punch there. If you haven't got a set of transfer punches in your workshop, I thoroughly recommend that you get a set. These things are really, really useful, and they're not expensive. My set is goes from 332 to 1732. They do imperial and metric, and you can get a set normally like that for, well, under 20 quid in UK money. Well worth the investment. So I've marked one hole, which is the furthest hole. There you can see the actual bracket with the couple of screws coming through. So I'm going to take this over to the Sherline and very carefully drill this out to depth. Okay, so I've got the drill lined up on the hole. Little brass plate is in the vise. I'm using my standard method of marking my depth. Using a little bit of marking tape. So we'll just crank up the Sherline and get that little hole drilled. Helps if you turn it on first. There we go. Job done. Now, I'm probably going to have some trouble with this. I might actually have to buy another 440 tap because I don't have a bottoming tap in 440, which is really what this hole needs. So we'll get it out there and I'll transfer it over to the drill press, and I'll go through my normal routine of tapping it using the drill press. Well, that was fun. I ended up having to grind the end off of, I don't know whether you can see that, grind the end off of my little 440 UNC tap to turn it into a bottoming tap to get a decent number of threads in those very, very shallow holes. But we got there again, so I'll just have to go and get myself another 440 number 2 tap, and that'll be quite, I mean, it's always useful to have bottoming taps anyway, particularly in these small sizes. So that's that done. So yes, we now have the finger plate on the lever with nice recessed holes, and it's all on there fine. So the next job is to put a little tiny recess in the top of the finger plate here, and I've already had a practice with my round-nosed mill on a piece of brass, so we're going for that kind of effect basically on top of the finger plate, and then it's just a matter of rounding the corners off, and that bit will be done. Not sure whether you can quite see that, but I've marked like an inner square to give me some lines to which to work to, because I've not used one of these before, so I've got to be a bit careful about how I go about doing this, and I really don't want to go too deep obviously because there's not an awful lot of gap between the ends of where the screw holes are and the top surface. So let's get it all lined up. Okay, so we're somewhere in the middle. Right, well, you can zoom in on that so you can so you get the idea. Now I'm going to keep going on this, but I'm going to turn the camera off because I really need to get right in there so that I can see exactly what I'm doing, and I can't do that with the camera and the lights and everything in the way. So I'll carry on with that, and I'll hopefully come back to you when I've finished. I finally finished the little golden block here, a little brass block. Turned out that the hardest bit was actually machining this dimple, this sort of dip in the top here. mainly because it's very difficult to see with the round. I've never used a round nose end mill before, and it's very difficult to see what you're actually doing with it. So yeah, I'm probably gonna. I've polished up the rest of it and I've rounded the corners off and the edges, and it feels nice. I might leave the machining marks in there. I actually quite like them. So so that's obviously that's the dip for your finger, and obviously this will sit. Well, you saw it when I screwed it on before I shaped it. Sit on there like that. So this the lever still needs to be polished up. I haven't done that yet. But basically, you get the idea. There you go. That's what it's going to look like. And it's all looking good at the moment. I think the next stage is to do the crank, which is made out of steel. And then there are 3 pivot screws to make out of brass. They're basically the one that goes in the end of the conrod that holds it to the end of the conrod that holds it to the crank, and the one that goes in the end of the conrod which holds it to the lever, and then there's another one which goes through the center of the lever and allows the lever to pivot. So yeah, so crank next, I think. But for now, yeah, it's coming along nicely. I was kind of hoping that we'd get this finished before the end of lockdown, but we're due to come out of lockdown on Wednesday, which is today is Sunday. Today is Saturday rather, so you know it's unlikely I'm going to finish it before then. But you know, it's taken up most of the 4 weeks that we've been in lockdown, which was the whole point of the process, you know, in the first place. Right, that's it for now.